Hello, Celebrant Lindy, Celebrant Training Scotland. Does a funeral service always have to be a celebration of life? I don't think it has to be. I think that is a common misconception amongst the general public, that because we have these named celebrants, that means a funeral service has to be full of fun and it has to be full of smiles and laughter. And of course, every single life is different, and some lives don't lend themselves to a celebration of life. And in fact, I would say that the majority of funeral services are not true celebrations. They're very life-centred. Sometimes that can be a better description, life-centred services. And I've just come back from the crematorium where we delivered a service this morning. And this was one where when I went to see the family, they were really quite anxious, because this was a lady with quite a sad history. Her son had died when he was quite young. He had been killed in a terrible accident, and sort of overnight her life went from one of being quite ordinary and contented to one where she was completely devastated and just could not cope with the loss of her son. And her life spiralled into one of depression and alcohol and looking for comfort and solace in places where actually you're never really going to find it, not long term anyway. And through that, as often happens, she began to withdraw from family members and from people who loved her the most. And despite them trying everything they could to reach out and try and help and support her, she was just lost. She was just lost. And so when it came to her death and it came to funeral service, they were really quite anxious, because they felt that the majority, or certainly the latter part of her life, was one that was very troubled. And so I think it came as quite a relief to them for them to understand that a funeral service, because they didn't want it to be religious, they didn't want it to have any religion, but they weren't sure what it was going to be. And so I was able to say, look, the best funeral services are ones that are very honest. Because if we stand up and we present your mum as somebody who was a pillar of the community and always reaching out to help people, and she had lots of friends and she embraced her life, then what will happen is there will be a disconnect in the crematorium. People will switch off because they just won't recognise the person we're talking about. But if we can be honest, if we can say, look, from the start, look, this was somebody who lived a troubled life, somebody who had to face many challenges, somebody whose life was punctuated by sadness, but that's not what we've come here to remember today. Today we've come here to remember that it was also a life that knew contentment and love and happiness, and that's what we've come to focus on today. That's what we've come to pay tribute to, and in order to say the best farewell we can. And by doing that, it just allows people to connect with the person they knew. We're not avoiding any sadness and any challenges, but neither are we focusing on those and holding those up and highlighting those. We're seeing behind them or past them to the happier moments and the more contented moments in a person's life. And I find that these are often the most beautiful services, because they're very honest, but they're very simple, they're very respectful, and it just gives the family what they need to help them to move forward in their grief. But we're saying goodbye to somebody in a very respectful way. And I always try and word it in a way where we're saying, and we hope that wherever you've gone, you've finally found that peace that you've been searching for. So does every funeral service have to be a big celebration? No, of course. It should always reflect who the person was in life. That's the best send-off we can give anybody. So thanks for listening. If you've any comments, put them in the boxes below. Bye.